Aloha and welcome to the Living in Hawaii show. We're so happy to have you folks here, and we have some wonderful guests today. We've got a great topic that the three ladies with me have lots of knowledge about, and we're talking about the cost of childcare in Hawaii, what parents need to know, and what, or parents to be need to know. So we're so excited to share with you, and I'm going to go around to start with. And I'm going to start here with Danielle. She's on Maui. And Danielle, good morning. And tell us a little bit about you and your family so that, you have experience with kids and childcare.
Just a little bit. My name is Danielle Harris from Maui. Aloha. We have 6 children and 3 stepchildren. I have 3 stepchildren and I have 9 grandchildren. So we've experienced childcare for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for that. We're going to be tapping into a lot of information that you can help us out with what is available there on Maui, since it sounds like you are an expert with that many kids in line. And then Misty, you're here on the Big Island, and tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, Misty Padilla here, born and raised in Kailua Kona on Hawaii Island. And I am blessed with a big family of 10. No, I didn't birth all of them. I was blessed enough to birth 6 of them, and I have 4 bonus children as well. Lovely family. I'm just so blessed and so grateful. And I did not have to pay childcare for all of them, fortunately, but I'm excited to discuss in further with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Misty. Well, it'll be good to hear about the options that are available here on Hawaii Island. And on Oahu, we have Sasha Thompson. Hello.
Aloha, everybody. My name is Sasha. I'm from Oahu, born and raised in Kailua, and out of Kapolei now. And I have 3 kids. One of them is an adult. The other one's coming up on adulthood. And then I got a little one still under 10. So I got a little bit of experience, but these ladies kind of trump me with all their kids. So,
oh, well, welcome, ladies. And I am Carol Spearling. I'm your host, and I am the childless one out of everybody. All of my children are 4-legged. So I don't know a lot about childcare and everything, but we'll be facilitating and asking lots of questions. But if you need anything about pets, dogs, cats, and horses, I'm the person to ask, okay? So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started. And from what I understand, childcare is in Hawaii. Hawaii has one of the highest childcare costs in the United States, 20 to 30% above the national average. And, that's a lot. If you're coming from the mainland, it's definitely something to consider if you're thinking about moving here, because it is an additional cost, unless you can be a stay-at-home mom or dad, or have family here that can help you. And then availability is a little bit limited based on what your needs are if you're working full-time and you need to have them. And, it's just kind of an opportunity, to learn more about this today. So I'm going to kind of start with Sasha as far as Oahu, as far as the average costs of what you pay for childcare.
So I'm kind of like Misty. I haven't had the opportunity to pay for childcare. Thank goodness. My husband and I, and now my family, we just work it out. We've been very fortunate enough to work it out to where somebody's just always home, and we arrange our schedules to where somebody's always watching them, which, I know a lot of families do that. But when I looked it up, like infant care, it can run like up to $1,800 a month. Toddler, if you're going like daycare before they're even in school, that's like $1,000 to $1,500 a month. And then if you're going to try and put them in preschool is not included. It's not free. It's like that can run you up to like $1,000 or more per month too. So it's pretty tough. And I think that's why a lot of us will pull together and like have family help out and watch. So yeah, Oahu's pretty expensive.
That's pricey. But again, it's so nice. And for many of you coming from the mainland, ohana Here in Hawaii, ohana is so important. That is the family, and that is the culture, and that's how a lot of folks, you ladies, are able to do it because you do have ohana around you. And there is nanny care, nanny services, and au pair live-in and stuff. Maybe you get down to the resorts to, here on Big Island, you get Kukio and Hualalai, and maybe you can afford that there, but for the rest of us, not so much. Danielle, Maui, what are the prices like there, and how is childcare there?
Pretty much like what Sasha said, that's how the prices are here on Maui. Because my ages of my children are from, the oldest is 35 and my youngest is 9. So I had a mixed bag of experiences. When my oldest was a baby, I was working plus going to college. So I had a mix with patch, and then Polynesian style ohana just help when they can. Two, fast forward to my 9-year-old, I had a property management / condo cleaning business, and I actually wore him, like a baby carrier. I wore him for the first year because childcare was, like what Sasha said, $1,500 for an infant and or toddler. That was, oh, never mind, I'll figure it out. And I just wore him, breastfed him, and did my job or ran the company. So that was interesting. But my grandchildren go to Punana Leo, and it's a Hawaiian immersion school, and their cost is between $600 and $800 a month.
Well, that wearing your child, seems to me, I see women in the community and out and about, and they do that. And it just seems like that's such a nice bonding with your child over the course of that age, because obviously up until the first year, maybe not too bad. But after that, I would think that they'd be a little heavy, a little bit on the heavy side. So we need to get them in the stroller or what have you. But anyway, Misty, Big Island, how is costs here?
Right now, all of my children have expired the child care phase, fortunately. But of course, there's always expense that comes with the territory. And I want to say back in the day, I was able to stay home with my children. I actually opened daycare. So I got patch certified. I opened daycare, and I could have a maximum of 6 children in my possession. Of course, half of them were always my children. And at that time, I want to say I was charging like $500 a month, which again is so minimal. And then when you try to put the price on someone watching your children, like these are your legit children. And it's really sad to say that it is very expensive, but at the same time, you can't put a price on someone who's really caring for your children while you're at work. And so right now, I want to say average, it could range anywhere from like $20 an hour. It depends on the childcare provider. They either charge per hour or per day. And then, of course, it depends if you're full-time, part-time, but it could totally run anywhere from like $700 a week, give or take what the need is. And now, mind you, you don't only send your child there for an 8-hour period. You got to give or take time that it takes for you to travel and get to work. And if you work for 8 hours, you got to drop your child off at least 30 minutes prior to your shift, depending on where you're located. So your child is really spending a maybe 8 to 10 hour day at the sitter. So it really does vary. And then at the same time, if you have an infant under the age of 1, childcare providers charge even more because of the need and the attention. So that's why I see when families end up either staying home to care for their children, because you're pretty much paying your whole paycheck. And that's for single moms, bless their heart. The struggle is definitely real. And that's why we raise our children in villages and hui together and really depend on family members to assist, because it's tough, but we just make it work, right? Lucky we live in Hawaii.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And, you just touched on the next topic, which was licensed versus non-licensed care. You are licensed. And what is the difference? And I would think that the cost is going to vary based on if you're licensed or unlicensed. So what can you tell us about the availability of, licensed versus unlicensed, and what's the difference?
For sure. Licensing is basically that title, that paper title that just solidifies, that you're licensed in the state of Hawaii. If you're unlicensed, that doesn't disqualify you for being a child care provider either. I have a lot of family and friends that are unlicensed because the process is very, it's a very technical process, but at the same time, twofold, living in Hawaii, we always go by word of mouth. I always say I would never send my children to someone just pulling out of Facebook Marketplace or referrals. Like, I just have a really hard time because these, day and age, it's really hard to trust. But yes, going through the licensing process, you go through the background check, you go through the criminal record check, and that's beautiful. It's really, really important to have that versus having those that are unlicensed. And again, the only way I would make that connection is, again, by word of mouth, getting that referral from people that you love and trust.
Yeah, so important to ask for references and know what the experiences. And then I would think, having some first aid and CPR type of certification would be an important factor too, because I would think that you'd want to send your kids to somebody who actually knows, they're out playing in the yard and, they trip and they, they sprain their ankle or their wrist or, they got cut or whatever, at least know how to address that. And you guys as mothers, that's an obvious thing that you know how to address when you see something and they're crying or whatever. And
if they're not bleeding, they're fine.
No blood, no broken bones, they're good.
You tell them, you want me to call the doctor? They go, oh no, and they keep playing. It's magic.
I love it. And I like I said, I don't have kids, but when I do, I look at them and I'm like, hey, it's far from your heart. You will live. Oh, that's hilarious. Just kind of looking at wait lists and availability, it says that, there's some centers recommend, if you're moving here and you're expecting a child, to register for childcare when you are still expecting, because that way you're not behind the gun, waiting to get into a place. You're actually signed up for it a little bit. And, it's to keep your name on multiple lists so that you can, depending on availability, if something becomes available, if something doesn't, at least you have options and stuff. And so, finding childcare, Sasha, on Oahu, I would think that there's a multitude of resources available there that you can reach out to.
There is. I mean, there's like childcare, there's home care, there's like preschools. You can get like what Danielle was saying, there's like patch programs, you can get grants and stuff. There's Open Doors, which is like Catholic Charities, I think. Like there's a few that will offer like scholarship or grant money to help you with childcare. But like you said, there's wait lists, there's applications, there's like, everybody wants to get into these programs and they're limited. There's only so many kids they can take, and like Misty was saying, it's your whole paycheck, and that's per kid, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, it's like not, and sometimes you'll get like group discounts, or you got more than one kid, they'll offer like some kind of a discount for that or something. But like, yeah, it's just,
wow.
Childcare is tough here,
That's interesting that, but I would think, different schools and churches. And then as far as financial assistance, there's gotta be, Misty, can you kind of touch on any kind of financial assistance that is out there above and beyond, the patch or what have you? There's gotta be stuff.
No, there definitely is financial assistance, again, all on a case-by-case basis, and it's unfortunate where there are those that do try to fraud the system. So getting assistance does make it a little harder. You got to go through extra red tape because they do need to weed away those that are actually telling the truth, those that actually need, or those that actually scam the system. And just unfortunate, we are living in a world where that does exist. So it does make it harder, for those in need. But what I've found and noticed is those on social media, they have the best the best resources on social media. I have moms that post and we kind of see, hey, I need help, I need this, I need that. And then you just see everyone just come in, like a flood, and they assist, call me, I can help. I have clothes, I have diapers, I have this. And that to me just speaks volumes, but even then you just never know if they're telling the truth as well, so you got to just really believe and hope and pray that, there are still some good people out there. But I believe just because of the way the world is now, it does make it a little more difficult to find, to give assistance, to seek assistance, and then of course find trustworthy individuals that you're really laying your entire life in their hands.
But being able to post on social media too, like, helps, because if somebody's posting that you're a junk babysitter or something, then you're going to lose your business. And so, yeah, Misty's right. Like, social media is the way of the world right now, as far as
we didn't have that back then, we definitely didn't have that. And
there was bulletin boards where people would post little post-its on the bulletin board outside of Safeway or whatever, like childcare help or whatever.
Well, it sounds like the best, a lot of the best tips is just networking in the community and finding people that you trust and getting referrals from people that you trust as far as who you're going to trust your child with. And then just some of the things, these are great tips. And then thinking about, like, many of us work from home. So that's going to help with childcare costs, because you're not going to need childcare as much because you're working from home. But I think important thing for providers, it's so important that as parents, I guess, providing snacks and sending the right things with your kids when they go. And if there's additional fees that they're going to charge, if they have to provide the snacks, what can you guys, Danielle, maybe you can kind of tip in on this one, because you got grandkids and everything. And so, snacks, I would think, adds up really fast. And what other fees can you tell us about?
If I could add actually just one step back in regards to networking on social media, there are mommy groups. I'm not sure if Misty, you mentioned that, but on Maui, there's a specific Maui mommies group on Facebook, and like, it's very tight knit.
Oh, we just lost your sound. Lost your sound, Danielle.
I think what she was trying to say was there's different mom groups available on different platforms as well on the island of Maui that, we definitely encourage everyone to, take into consideration going that route. Of course, bad news travels way faster than good news. And once someone, basically messes up or has any bad references, you expect it to go viral. So again, social media, both good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right. So what can you guys tell me about the fees? Like, do you have to, you guys don't really, you have families, so you don't really have to pay, which is great. But I would think, talk to me about, you guys have kids. How much do you pay in groceries extra? Because you got snacks, right? I see both of you like, wow. You got to feed the machine, right? So to talk to us a little bit about, and then also there's you have to be careful because different kids have different food allergies or specifications and stuff like that. Sasha, you want to start on that one, and then we'll jump to Misty, because I'm sure you've got a lot on it too.
Sure. When my oldest son was little, I did find like a caretaker for him, and he went like 3 or 4 days a week, and for like a few hours after school kind of thing, or in the afternoon. And I had to bring, like, she would just keep like a store, like a cubby area with all the kids' stuff. And so like you had to bring like diapers and wipes and change of clothes and have that all set up and ready for them. And then I also had to bring snacks that they shared. So she showed me like her cupboard and everything, and then had like all the parents would bring like case of Simon and case of snacks and case of, everybody would just share, but we still had to provide snacks all the time, and it wasn't included. Food wasn't included, and if you wanted them to eat food, then you made sure that Auntie had all the things she needed in her kitchen to make sure your kids were fed and taken care of. And that's pretty much how I experienced it. But I'm probably sure that unless you're putting them in a preschool type setting where they've got cafeteria and things are managed that way, probably like a home babysitter or childcare in a home setting, you're probably going to need to provide snacks, I would think.
Okay. And then you mentioned diapers. Now, don't some places have restrictions that they only take children after they're potty trained too? Is that a thing?
Yeah, that is. Some people won't take them unless they're potty trained, because if you're watching, like Missy said, 6 kids at a time, and like 3 of them are infants or babies, and you got to be changing them and watching toddlers who's also, some kids, they're wearing diapers till they're like 4 or 5 years old. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. So yeah, that's something else that you got to consider,
Okay, well, that's interesting. Misty, you've got a tribe. Talk to us about snacks and food and expenses on your tribe.
I totally have a tribe. And yes, it is. It's very pricey. I mean, gosh, just for dinner alone to feed my family, you're looking at already minimum $300 just for dinner, one meal, and then we try to stretch it. But, the kids, they get very spoiled and they don't like to eat leftovers, and all the things. So, we take it for what it is. But yes, food in Hawaii is very, very expensive. But another key factor that I wanted to touch on too is we're raised to live off of food that now is like declared to be completely unhealthy for us. It's bad. Everything's toxic. And that's kind of been the boat that I've been riding recently, is like all the food that I just love and grew up with, it is just not good for our kids. And statistics and health wise proves that that's why, there's so much ADHD, so much anxiety, so much of this, so much that. Like the world has just gone berserk, basically based on the foods we eat and the drinks that we drink. So I'm really trying my hardest to get my family to be on that health and wellness train, which again puts us to another layer of expense, because it's expensive. It's very expensive to buy healthy food. And the reason why people eat the food they do is because it's cheaper. That's just how it is. But when you compare the United States and other countries, like a lot of the foods are banned in other countries, but not in the US. So that kind of takes us, maybe we can talk that on another topic, but cost wise, it's very expensive. We spend at least $1,000 of groceries a week, at a bare minimum. And that's just me feeding in my house, I have maybe a family of 6 right now. And then, of course, people come and go, they all bring goodies and whatnot, but it's very pricey. The cost of formula, all of that stuff is very pricey as well. I wouldn't know. I was able to breastfeed all of my children, and I'm super grateful for that. So I don't know what it is. I'm very blessed, but I know it's expensive. Everything adds up. Like Sasha said, there's daycare providers that do provide snacks and some that don't.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate that. It just seems, the one beautiful thing is that we are here in Hawaii, which is wonderful because we have so much fresh local produce. And it seems to me, there's certain things that Hawaii is known for, right? One of our staples is rice. Another staple is Spam, which isn't all that great for you, but kind of.
And it's getting expensive, and they lock it up.
So
it is
crazy. Like that is, I cannot.
But then the beauty is that so many of us live in a place like Misty, you have a beautiful yard, you can plant some banana trees, right? Make the kids eat what's there, what's growing on the land, and have that be more natural. The best snacks seems to be bananas, mangoes, any kind of citrus that, it just grows profusely. Just have them snack on that kind of stuff is just, the best way to go, honestly. So I think that is a super important, tip. If you're coming to Hawaii, you're moving here, be thoughtful of that, to go to your farmers markets and pick up produce, pick up things that are more natural, because that's going to just, the health of your child is so important. So that, and we live in Hawaii. So, and I'm just going to say, like I said, rice is a staple. And I'm sure, Misty, you guys must go through a pot of rice, Shasa, a pot of rice a day, right? I mean, and you guys don't just have these
We're like
cute
3 pots of rice a day. We have a smaller pot. I don't have the big one because then they waste. We cook the big one and then it goes, unused. And so we cook the small one and got to cook it in increments so we never waste. So we try to be very resourceful.
And that's a great tip, but that is a huge thing, right? Because rice is relatively inexpensive and it's a good filler. And, then you have a meat with it or what have you, then, you have your complete meal. So I just want to kind of go on as far as what kids are learning when they do go to childcare. If there's certain, Danielle mentioned there was a Hawaiian immersion school that her grandkids go to. Age appropriate, cultural enrichment, outdoor time. I know there's a school here in Kona that is on acreage and they have the kids actually go out and work on the land and they have gardens. And so the kids get their hands dirty. Sasha, can you kind of enlighten us a little bit on any of that?
I've heard of them. Actually, I can't really speak on that, to be honest. My kids, like, I've heard of these programs, especially like there's like the immersion schools and stuff, but I'm not real sure. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, Misty, yeah, I'm sure you're very familiar because we have Ehonui down at Kona Waina, and I think there's another one. So, that talk to us about that type of thing and the enrichment that can be provided to children, once they're of age to start going to school and being a part of an organization.
Yes, fortunately, we do have so many resources, all the things I wish I took advantage of when I was much younger. And then I try to have my kids be a part of it, but basically with the culture programs that we're currently involved with, they teach you how to fish and farm, basically have like the farm to table concept. They teach you how to fish, how to make your food, how to cook your food, and then just how to be resourceful. And of course, not waste, Hawaiian style, you never waste. Only take what you can eat. When you fish, you just take minimal, you always got to leave more to come for future. And I love that opportunity. I should actually dig deeper into all the resources that our island does have to offer for the children. But we know there's lots of cultural resources out there that you can definitely take advantage of to be able to learn how to be more resourceful. And then, of course, being able to give back to the land, like Carol said. Go the natural way, plant, eat off the land. And that's basically what it is. And we laugh about it all the time because I always say, my husband, he knows how to fish and do all the things. If we ever ended up on Survivor, we want to be on his team because we'll never go hungry. You've got the fisherman, the hunter, and you got to learn how to use your resources because, we live on an island. At some point in time, everything could just really stop. And then we're not going to have all of these shipments come that we depend on so much to feed us. So you do, Carol. Thank you for, encouraging that. We got to learn how to live off the land.
Yeah. And we are so fortunate. And it is a super important thing to think about because we are on an island and we do need to be self-sufficient. We have the ocean around us to feed us. We have the mountain. We have ranches with cattle and beef, and there's, wild boars, and there's meat out there. There's fish in the ocean. There's fruit. It's easy to grow vegetables. So, it is something definitely, if you're moving here, you're moving to Hawaii, you're thinking about it, think about the more natural lifestyle that you're going to want to embrace as you're going. So I kind of want to just think about fees. Additional that you're not really ready for, right? Additional fees that it seems like there would be late pickup charges, perhaps. There could be deposits. What about field trips? Do they cost? Either one of you just jump in?
You're absolutely right. I kind of forgot all of that.
So yeah, it seems like there could be. I mean, especially field trips. Field trips can't be free, right?
Right. No. It's like they'll say it's free, but then when you get there, there's always these layers upon layers of fees added. So yes, moving forward with the fees, there's late pickup fees, and it could go anywhere from like $25 an hour. And once you're past that 5-minute mark, you get charged for the hour, or they could do per minute. It just really depends on the provider. So yes, there's fees for that. Some childcare providers I know charge extra for diapering. for the amount of times that they have to diaper your child. It's like, oh my gosh, so crazy. Back in my day, no, I supply everything. I feed them unless your child has an allergy, which again, back then, allergies was not really a thing, but now it is.
Yep. Yeah.
And so there's so much, but if your child has an allergy, yes, you got to bring all the supplies that is sufficient for your child. And yes, fees upon fees it's definitely a thing.
Wow. And it seems like, the food allergies type of a thing, it has to be very well communicated to the provider, because you don't want the food to get mixed up with somebody else's. So that seems like that could happen. And the provider is the one responsible for that at that point, I would think. So that, just the additional extra fees, kind of sounds like a lot.
And then also if they have to provide medicine, like if your child is on medication, then sometimes that's an extra charge because they have to be on it with timing and dosage and all those things. And maybe Missy, you might know, like if the person is licensed or got the certification, they probably might need to have some kind of training in that or something.
Definitely. A lot, like Carol said, it's a lot of things can be life-threatening. So yes, you do want to have that first aid certification, the CPR certification. A lot of these allergies and medical conditions are indeed life-threatening. Even the littlest cross-contamination, cutting peanuts on the same cutting board, using the same knife, and then going on to another child can totally cost that child their life. So it is super, super important. And I think for people that don't have children that have these needs or allergies, they really don't know the extent of the severity of what could happen. Even going into restaurants, now you go into restaurants everywhere, you'll see a notification that, this and that was made with peanuts because that's such a big allergy.
Nuts, soy, milk.
I know it's just bizarre.
Sugar. All the good stuff.
Don't touch anything unless you grew it yourself,
Yeah. Well, it seems like that's something that definitely to be aware of as a parent, knowing, with your kids. So I want to ask you guys about taxes. Is there any tax benefits to having kids? I mean, I don't have, so I have no idea. So I'm sure you guys do. You got benefits from tax. I mean, we just had tax season was upon us last month. So what can you guys tell me about that?
So for me personally, yes, I recall back in the day now, my children, I have adult children, and then I have 2 children that are under the age of 18 that, yes, we do claim, we do have them as a write-off, so to speak. Whoever said it was cheaper by the dozen completely lied. It is not cheaper by the dozen to have that many kids. But yes, there is tax benefits to having children under the age of 18. Back then, I always remember being able to get a tax return back when I did have my children that were written off. And of course, now it just seems like we're just constantly paying and paying and paying. The debt never stops. So yes, I don't look at having children as having them for the sake of taxes and the write-off. But yes, there are some pros and cons that come with it. Either way, whether they're a tax benefit or not, there's still a very, very price. It's a price to pay for sure. Especially.
But what does that actually mean? Like we're getting money back. That's like what we spent out to pay for them for the year. You know what I mean?
Like millions of dollars, right? You add on
and make it like it's something it's not. Come on, man. Like maybe like make it cheaper during the year, and then I won't have to worry about trying to claim it back. Like
right. Because they say that even families with 2 incomes can find that childcare is going to eat up to 20 to 40% of your take-home pay.
And so, that's why my husband and I would and that's why we work it out, because it made no sense to put them inside in childcare. Somebody else is raising them, teaching them, doing all the things. And then I come home and hand over my whole check that I spent working. It's like that made no sense to us at all. So it's like, well, I'm not going to have that money anyway. I might as well watch it myself.
Yeah. Yep.
100%.
So kind of moving on as far as, healthcare, obviously kids get sick all the time. It's just one of the facts of life when you have kids, especially when they do go to school, because then there's all the other kids and all it takes is one, right? So what are the rules specifically, regarding like as a parent? It's pretty much, I would think, common sense, but what can you guys tell me about that?
Yeah, for sure. So with children, going to daycare, yes, if they have any discharge coming from any part of their body, that cannot be contained, they cannot attend childcare or school, so to speak. And of course, if you have any, chicken pox, head lice, all the things that are easily spread, you definitely, use common sense. Don't send them to the childcare provider. Don't send them to school either. Coughs, sometimes we have the VOG here. So there's kids that chronically cough every single day that may not necessarily be contagious, but at the same time, it's that lingering cough that they always have. I think at that point, yes, you use your motherly instinct. If this is something that is ongoing, that's going to spread, don't send them, because there's other people that don't have, strong immune systems. Like, I consider my children, we have amazing immune systems, and I love that. So I don't mind my kids being around sick people because I feel my kids are strong enough to fight it off. But there are some parents that are like, oh my gosh, don't cough, don't sneeze, don't do any of this in front of my children, because they are more sensitive. So we got to be more aware of that. But I think, yeah, just using common sense, but even that, we can't even depend on people to do that as well. So be mindful, be very, very mindful.
Yeah.
And I think
And
after
we also,
COVID, that really, came to the forefront at COVID, right? And Sasha, go ahead.
no, you got to really think about that too, because like Missy said, like the VOG, it will keep you coughing and you're not even sick. It's just like an irritation. And then, there's rules on how much you got to have your kids in school and how much time they can actually be out of school. And there's certain times of the year when these snot reactions just go from kid to kid to kid and they don't stop. And it's like your kid is sick or stuff is happening for months on end, and it's like, how do you keep them out of school? And then how do you go to work? And then how do you do all these things? So try and keep them as healthy as possible, like off the jump. And then if they've got a little something, keep them home, because then it won't explode and then last forever.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things, it seems like, again, I don't have kids, but I hear about that, cold. You mentioned head lice, Misty, things like that just spread like wildfire. So you just have to really be aware and be, cognizant of that type of thing, because you really just want to be ready. So just kind of finishing up, really just want to kind of get some closing thoughts as far as parental involvement. Sasha, go ahead and get started. I know you got to run. So just your parental involvement and your closing thoughts about this whole topic.
Really vet your care person, get a lot of referrals, and make sure that you can kind of follow them. I like to make sure I can see people on social media and that like people around me know them, so that it's just more transparent that way. And kids are just expensive, period. And here they're like way more expensive. So
Okay.
either don't have them or plan ahead. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's good tips on that one. And Misty, I'll ask you for your closing thoughts.
Same as Sasha, resources and references. Those are by far the best for me, is just ask around, we need to pull reports, police report, criminal reports. I will totally be that parent, unfortunately, I never had to go that route because I used, our family. And I'm super, super grateful for that. My daughter will be having a baby in Las Vegas. And of course, my first thing was, you are not sending your child to the daycare, right? And they're going to make it work. But a lot is just, trust and all those things that come into place as a parent. But yes, exactly what Sasha says, do your research, take the time to process and do your due diligence, because you're basically trusting a stranger with the love of your life. Other than that, reach out to us. We can also give the greatest and best resources and recommendations.
Yes, for sure. So anybody that's watching this, we are here at Living in Hawaii. We're a resource for you. We're always happy to help. And we're so thankful to have you ladies here today to give your expertise on childcare, since you're both experienced mothers. And I'm not. So I will just sign off on that. And you all have a very great day. Aloha.
Thank you.
Aloha.